Hello interwebs, I'm Eric and welcome to the TheLooneyTurtle. Okay. I gotta say, that's an interesting thing for Looney to be involved with.
I like it.
Okay, well, for those of you who don't know, there was an animatic released at San Diego Comic-Con for the finale of Season 5. Starlight Glimmer is apparently making an appearance after an entire season of nothing. My distaste for this character has gotten me thinking about the season end cap villains, and I've noticed a shift in how they're written. First, let's see what these villains' goals are. Nightmare Moon wants to rule over Equestria, Discord wants chaos, Chrysalis wants to take over Equestria, King Sombra wants to rule over the Crystal Empire, Tyrek wants to rule over Equestria, and Starlight Glimmer wants to run a town with equality. Some of these goals can be meshed together like Chrysalis, Tyrek, and Nightmare Moon, but they differ in a few regards, mainly their motives. Why does Nightmare Moon want to rule over Equestria? Well, because she felt unwanted and let jealousy get the better of her. To make it even worse, her sister trapped her in the moon for 1,000 years. Forget the small resent she had before, after 1,000 years I'm sure Luna was furious. Then there's Discord. The show hasn't told us that Equestria was his main target, but after being turned to stone, I'm sure that he has a vendetta against Celestia and Luna, and by extension, the land they rule over. I'd say that's a pretty good reason to play games with the elements of harmony. These villains have a lot of time dedicated to them in their respective episodes, in turn giving us a wider picture of who they are. While on the other hand, I believe that the next few villains are very undeveloped and or uninvolved in the main conflict. Queen Chrysalis wasn't revealed until the climax of A Canterlot Wedding, meaning that there isn't a lot of time to explore her character and perhaps her entire race. All we know is that they feed off of love, and when you look too closely, the plan doesn't make a lot of sense. Then again, that does give us a little bit more time to look at the characters. This episode had the task of establishing two characters that have a strong relationship with Twilight. While the writers could have easily foreshadowed their existence, the time they spent not developing Chrysalis helped establish Shining Armor and Princess Cadence. King Sombra is undeveloped as well, but for a slightly different reason. While we were told that he ruled over the Crystal Empire and shown that he can be very clever, there was no suspense in the present. A large majority of the episode ignores that he exists, and when he actually does make an appearance, he's pushed away like a toddler trying to get some cookies from the cookie jar. There's a lack of suspense with Sombra because he isn't actively trying to stop Twilight or weigh down Cadence or scare the Crystal Ponies or just anything for that matter. He pretty much sits back and waits for Cadence to give up. It's not engaging, but I guess it can be interesting to piece together how he thinks. And by forgetting about him, we have more time to learn about the Crystal Empire and see how Twilight pieces together this test. In contrast, Tyrek was a lot more involved in Twilight's kingdom, but the episode tried to focus more on Princess Twilight Sparkle, a topic that the writers should have covered during the entire season, but I guess it's better late than never. They kept Tyrek's backstory extremely brief, and we learned that he just wanted all of Equestria's magic, presumably so he could mow down that forest in front of his house.
But we didn't see his house.
Nope, but by judging how he acted at the end of the episode, I wouldn't be surprised. By making Tyrek a power-hungry villain and not really exploring the reason behind his quest for power, the show focused on a topic that was well overdue. Lastly, we have Starlight Glimmer, who ran a town and convinced everyone that equality was the way to go about friendship.
Wait, this is a kid's show, I can't have a complicated concept. She was evil all along. Yeah, she was just evil.
I've had a lot of trouble understanding this villain because the writers didn't care to explain who she is. You gotta give us something, even if you have plans to expand upon this character later. I need to know why this villain is a threat. Sombra was at least a giant cloud, Chrysalis had an entire army, and the other three had extremely powerful magic. What can Starlight Glimmer do?
Remove cutie marks?
Okay, don't get me wrong, this isn't an average spell in the world of Equestria, but it's all we know about her. How did she develop this power? What does she plan to do with it? And the question that I've been curious of this entire video, why is she seeking power? Why does she have to rule over a group of ponies with an iron fist if she doesn't care about them? There's no reason for her to be doing this, and if there is, then it wasn't conveyed very well. Aside from my extreme distaste in her character, I noticed that she isn't a new trend in the writing of these villains. Nightmare Moon, Discord, and to a lesser extent Queen Chrysalis are villains that want something and have a clear reason for wanting that thing. You can put yourself into their shoes and understand why they did what they did. Take for example Nightmare Moon. You spend hours creating an amazing work of art only to find out that everyone's sleeping through it. Wouldn't you be envious towards someone in a similar field? Perhaps to the point of feeling resent towards them? With Discord, try to imagine that you have the power to do literally anything. Would you abuse it? Then wouldn't you be furious after being trapped in stone for over 1,000 years? Finally, imagine that you're the leader of a town that is in desperate need of food. After a little scavenging, you hear about this amazing place called Equestria that's just thriving with food. Wouldn't you do whatever you can in order to eat? From Chrysalis' perspective, it's feast or famine, and she chose feast. While on the other hand, King Sombra was intentionally using dark magic to enslave the ponies around him. Tyrek was intentionally stealing pony magic for power, and Starlight Glimmer lied to everyone for her own personal gain. You can't relate to these villains and understand their actions because we aren't given a clear reason for them to be doing this stuff. With the first three villains, we can understand where they're coming from, in turn presenting a more interesting and developed character.
But they were able to focus on the main characters more by leaving the villains less developed.
Well, of course we want time to focus on our main characters, but by this point we should already know who they are. The villains are one of the few new elements that the viewers are introduced to, and it could help children understand lessons better if they can see themselves as the villain. The bad guys shouldn't just be the bad guys because they're bad. They should be the villains because they do the wrong thing, make the wrong choice, or act in a way that is, from the character's perspective, unacceptable. Power hungry is the most generic type of villain, and it gets boring after a while. That's why I think that the writers need to put more thought into these season end cap villains, as well as stop using the end caps to cover topics that should have been covered during the entire season. For now, I'll leave it at that. If you enjoyed this video, then consider becoming a Patreon. Also, feel free to like, favorite, subscribe, and as always, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.